The next calculation issue is actually inside of here. This was one of the hardest things to organize because, as you can see, there are calculations that run all the way down and they are hand done each time. Now, while it is great to be able to have that automatically calculated for you, one of the things that I wanted to make sure to do is make it so that depending on no matter how long of a trip you were going to stay, this would always work. So I didn't want to try to plan out how many days, and I didn't want you to run in and have to manipulate the table in order to make it work. I just want you to punch in data and let that be it. So what I did was I turned this into complicated formulas. So this is what I end up doing. Now you may believe that I got this wrong. Let's cover that. So this is the main thing. This part here, this S5, is the budget per day. We already know that's off. Can't do anything about it right now. But the next part is the important part. He's checking from I-16 to I-16, which is basically taking everything before it and seeing if they're true. If it's true that they have passed, the day has been completely completed, you sum all of your differences and then you divide it by however many days you have left. So currently I-17 would be this day, which would be this. And then you count from there all the way down to the end, which is I-84, basically meaning how many days you have left. And what that does is it takes the difference of your budget, this money that you didn't spend, and spreads it across the days so that you don't have a spending spree. Because you can only spend like a fraction of it. If you only save $20, you're not going to get $20 tomorrow. You're going to get 30 cents. Cool, got that. Here's the next one. This one just takes all of your different transactions from this table and calculates them together by date. So everything that you spent on this day ends up getting added here, and that's how much you used. Takes your budget, subtracts from that, adding in the extra differential, whatever that you got, the spread out difference that you got, and then gives you the new difference, which is if the day has passed, it subtracts everything and gives you the difference. Otherwise, it's 0. And then this gives you this divided by the entire day. Now, I did mine a little bit different, but not that much, because what this does is takes all the previous difference and then divide it by the day. This takes the current difference and divides it by the day, and then supposedly adds it here. But it doesn't actually use this one. It uses all the other differences and redoes it. I did something a little bit different, and this is where I kind of ran into an issue. When I first started making this table, making all the calculations, the maps, because that's the biggest thing that's causing all of this to work, I was running into circular dependencies. And so what ended up happening is I had to adjust some settings to make it calculate itself iteratively, and that fixed it to a point. So what ends up happening is sometimes you'll come up into this table and everything looks cool, and then some other times you'll come into this table and you'll see rough errors everywhere, and that's just because it didn't calculate it yet. The more you muck about with the table, the more stuff gets filled out and the less you see the problems. But that was the best I could do at this particular moment, besides hard code all of that stuff, and I didn't want to do that. I was trying my hardest to keep that from being a thing. So I just settled with that being just the necessary evil. So the next thing that I did was do the actual calculation, and I'll run you through this. All dates just pulls in all of the days, and it gives me the dates. That's actually how this is working. These are all calculated based off of the first day and last day that you get from here. First day, last day. And it calculates all of the dates. Then from there, I take the data of the A column, and let's see, from A to C basically, and then I find all of the early days, which is what this is. It takes everything from the ones previous to today's date. So for each of the different dates, which is what map does, it will filter out all the days that are lesser than it, and then find all of the differences per day, bundle them together, sum them together, and then gives you the budget per day. Does it seem like it's correct? Well, it actually is, because keep in mind that this was taking all of these differences here, adding them together, and then dividing it by the amount of days that were left. Since this is that, I just added all these together and then added the budget per day, which is the thing that you saw on the last page, to that result, and then put that down here. So this is the proper calculation based off of what he gave me. Used is the same thing that he was doing over there, where I did another map of each date, summing everything together, and then putting it down here. And these calculations are the exact same as these calculations, because they're based off of hard-coded transactions that I did not muck about with. Then from there, it does the differences. This is the exact same thing as it's doing on the other side. The only thing I'm doing is just rounding by 2 so it looks like money. And then the last one is the weird one, where, well, actually no, it's not, because I'm not doing anything crazy. This one, I'm taking the difference and dividing it by the amount of days that are left, and that's it. This one is just dividing it together so I can see a percentage of how much I used, and then I use some color formatting in order to show you how badly you overspent. So if it's a little yellow, you spent a little, but not that much. But when it reaches red, like, dude, you did a lot today, and you should probably calm down. Then after that, I added the allowance, and I got the remaining and stuff like that. This is the amount of you used throughout the entire time that you were there. And this can also be found on the transaction list over here. Actually, this one is a little bit different. Oh yeah, that's right, because this one is keeping track of total variable and total fixed, which are not calculated at the same time. This one, if I remember correctly, is keeping track of just, I think, variable. So yeah, and that's the other weird issue. He had variable transactions and fixed transactions, and those are not my words, those are his words. So you have over here on transactions, let's see, I'm not sure if I kept the titles, but this was supposed to be variable and then this was supposed to be fixed, that type of thing. It's weird. I don't know exactly how to put it, but basically, yeah. I'm not sure where those terminologies went, but I'm pretty sure they were there because I didn't come up with that. Like I said before, this is my first time working on the budget table. So I took fixed transactions as being separate transactions from the other ones. Here's where it gets weird. As you might have found, the more money that you overspend, the less of a budget that you have on the following day. And as you can see, he overspent several times. So you should not have a whole lot of money by the end of it. He does though, and a ridiculous amount at that. Keep in mind, I didn't touch these calculations. I didn't touch any of them. All I did was I analyzed them, and then I made a copy off of that and started fixing them. Here's the weird part though. On mine, I didn't have these two values. This came up as a solid wall of blankness, as if he just didn't spend any money throughout those days. Good on him, he really shouldn't have been doing that anyway. But they were here. Why? Because he hard-coded them. He put them there. And I only just recently found that when I was just making sure that I was doing everything right, because my calculations kept changing all the time. And then I found out he was doing that. But for some reason, after spending 241% times, like, it was a ridiculous. That's not even correct. Like, that's not even correct. He has as a budget today $301. Even after spending way too much multiple times, he still has that much money left. And yet he spent it's like well over the amount. He still comes in the next day and is like, yeah, I still got tons of money I can use. That should not happen. And then by the end of it, he spends it again. Buys another car. I don't know what he did in New York, but he did something, and he spent another $600. There is nothing in the transactions. In fact, if you look all the way down at the bottom, there's no label. There's no label. There's not even a date. That's why I couldn't find it, because all of my stuff was based off dates. It had to be in the system for you to look for it. See, that's how I looked for it. X prices, X dates, X fixed. And those are named ranges that are relating to my transaction list over here. So if I found those things inside of my name ranges, you'll see X. Give me a second. X fixed. Those are all that's the fixed column. X prices, all the prices. And then the expenses is just the entire table, descriptions, X dates. And it uses that X budget type in order to find all the different things. So that was hard coded in, basically. And yeah, he still wound up with a whole bunch. Now here's the interesting thing. This is budget for the last day. He can buy a house on his last day, put down payment on it on his last day. This is how much he spent across the trip. Now this may just be variable expenses, but still, that's how much he spent, which also equates to how much I saw that showed that he spent on mine. I have left $9,000 from the original $13,000. Okay, that's everything put together. I end up with that much money. However, here's the interesting part. He spent this much money here already, and then he spent again this much money here. This is before he even got to this. That's already like $8,000 somewhere around there just to start off with, because these expenses aren't the same. You see, those aren't the same. How do you end up with so much money by the end of the trip? The way I had it calculated at the end on mine is that you only had that much money left. So maybe I got the calculations wrong. It's very, very possible. It's very, very possible, because this is only keeping track of the fixed expenses. It's not keeping track of the actual expenses. This is just for him to get there and get inside of a building. This is not keeping track of how much he actually spent while he was there, because he's got so much other stuff that he spent. That is not included on the other side. This doesn't keep track of, this only keeps track of the stuff that was fixed, not anything else. Let me see. I just wanted to make sure here. Yes, see, this only keeps track of the fixed expenses, not of the variable expenses. In the variable expenses, which is inside of the transaction here, is an extra $4,000 of just of variable expenses. So fixed plus variable gives you the $10,000, which is the reason why he only has that much left. The $2,000. Okay? He somehow still has $7,000. And that's the extra issue that I'm seeing. He's not taking into account at all, ever, in any way, no matter what, his variable expenses and his actual expenses. Keep in mind, there's nothing here. He's reusing this. Even though, even in groceries, he has two different values. Okay? So even if I may have gotten something wrong, there is a huge area here where there was some sketchiness going on. I don't know if he finds this, but if he finds this, whoever was in charge of this, you got took in some way. You got took. But not my problem. I just the person that found it. So that's it right there. Now, keeping that in mind, after all that business went down and I did some changing of everything, that's when I organized this entire business here and put everything in order. And that made that so much easier after I named everything and found a nice template that works for it. So that being said, I'm hoping that at least you see the amount of detail and care that it took into making this project. And if you would like something like this or something similar or something different, you can contact me on Upwork or on as Sage K or on YouTube as Upwork Skelly. Bye.